think from where we came, what you were talking about, Karen, some of you will be able to notice and feel the actual kidneys, actually the hardness of them, without the boost. And when the boost is there, they just seem to soften, like a sponge that's been dried, and yet when it's been moist, it's got that texture and that softness and that gentleness and that kindness. That's actually the difference of how the kidneys and the liver feel without the boost and then with the boost. So quite a dryness and then quite a softness that comes in. So on my way up, it was really pressing on me to start talking for the final part of this year about the 3 R's, because ultimately the 3 R's, and I'm going to name them in a minute, but the 3 R's keep the corners. It's like they form a triangle of some kind, or a holding space within an energy within our body, and they hold things in place. They hold this underlying vibration, they hold this the core identity in place, or the core beliefs that cluster a whole experience around them. And the 3 R's are really simple words, but they sensates as the energy starts to shift. Rejection. Rejection is a two-way thing. It's even more multidimensional than that. But it might start out with, I don't like, what's happening in your life. Oh, I don't like my dad, or I don't like my stepfather, or I don't like my mother, or something like that. In essence, one of the holding patterns that is recognised within words is the rejection. I feel rejected by that person. And it might have happened at a young age, or it could have happened over and over time. When we sink deeper into the experience for someone, the actual rejection itself is not only of that person pushing them away, which of course creates this resistance, but it of course backfires within us. So effectively we're rejecting ourselves as well. You can imagine what that actually does at a deep level. It causes a separation from ourselves at such a profound level that we're racing around trying to fill this space in desperation, instead of this acceptance of, oh my gosh. And once this rejection level's shifted, the energy just shifts. It shifts, and then it the way I witness it, and everyone will have their own way of seeing it or feeling it, is it's like a tightness or a darkness or an entrapment or a roaring unhappy sound that then, once released, shifts, and then it lightens. It becomes more of a playful musical sound, and it has more of a colour within the space. So energy itself doesn't have a start and a finish. But if it's in a trapped environment within the body, maybe located in the back of one of the organs, or within the space of any aspect of us, and actually outside as well, it creates like I'm saying a river, so it's like a river where beavers built a dam. It creates some level of dam in the body so that the flow isn't there. So that's rejection. Let's have a look at resentment. Oh man, resentment's a really big one. It's only a simple word, but the process of resenting, resentment is a frozen state, whereas the process of resenting means that it's an ongoing frozen state. This is fascinating, because these can be lifetimes. These can be genetic patterns that come forward and go back. It can be rejection of, the mother, or resentment of the mother or the father, which can be Papatūānukus, or Mother Earth, or ultimately Sky Father, that kind of thing, if we're going into the separation of things. But then if we bring the two parts into one, it can be just a true resentment for being here on earth. It can be a resentment for a relationship that you had, or the things people don't say. I resent having made this action, taken this action, had this child, didn't have a child, didn't do a relationship. All kinds of things can be a part of this resentment play. And of course, the more that there is in the body, the more resentments that there are in the body, the more of a stronghold there is in the separation of a big dam. that prevents the real true flow of what you really are, this incredible magnificence. And the other one is regret. I always am fascinated when we hear or we read, or when I've read or experienced within somebody who's a lot older, who's had a long life. And most of what their message is don't live with regrets in life. They're really pointing to something quite profound, because the regrets are another steel hold within that dam system. And they're another thing that keeps us separate from ourselves, because if we're regretting from this magnificent place of right now, if we're regretting something from the past, we're actually keeping ourselves tethered, is the word, tethered to that place. Yeah. So even though we think we're being present, we're tethered in another space. With the multidimensional aspects that we're now playing within, I'm locating and discovering that we're sometimes tethered in other realms. And we're also tethered in past lives or mass conscious awareness. We're tethered to these things because of this regret. It's only a word that points, but it's a good one. 3 R's are easy to remember, right? So this regret can create an energy of its own, because when it's being fed by the words of our mouth, we're feeding this thing. We're feeding, and because we're causing it to be separate from ourselves, right there, there's no true ownership of it, and it doesn't heal. Because a part of the whole purpose of who we really are, this magnificent creature, this amazing beings that we are, is the encompassing of all, and the acceptance and the allowing for this energy to untangle, to disintegrate and to melt into a new way of being, so that energy becomes a new life force as it's brought back into us. So those 3 R's are really profound, and I witness significant things just within myself, with people I'm working with, groups that I'm working with. When any one of these 3, but the whole 3 at one time in a certain context, whoa, amazing. Then it provides the next level of clarity that can come up for distinctions that are truly exciting, because it reconnects us to the life of our true flow, which is us. Our life isn't separate from us. You see how this conversation is always about the separation of us from what's keeping us in a place? It's always because of the separation. When we realize that our life isn't separate from us, it isn't something that's happening by its own default. We are life. I am the flow of life. You are the flow of life. We are life expressing. Then we can claim back all these aspects of us and let the dam flow, so that let the dam unfold, let it become something else in order for the flow. And then we become the riverbed. We're actually the riverbed that then the energy flows far more freely.